Hello.
Good morning. Could I speak to Jude, please?
Speaking.
Jude, it's Jason speaking from the Top 40 magazine in South Africa.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. Are you ready to do your interview?
Yeah.
Got you up bright and early, hey?
I had to get up anyway.
Oh, right, yes. Have a cup of tea and start your day.
Exactly.
Well, congratulations, first off,
Uh-huh.
on the new album. I can't believe that there's 22 tracks on it, but there are.
Yeah, some of them very short.
Yes, but it's...
Yes, value for money.
Yeah.
You kind of think, there's 22 on there must be one that people like, you know.
Well, I think so. I think there's certainly more than one.
Uh-huh.
But I was actually yesterday just reading through the sort of release notes that come with it, which you could either read as a biog or just someone sort of having, almost living what would seem to be the Chumbawamba ethos, about having fun. Which,
yes, definitely.
And is this album? It's certainly from the tracks that are on it, and I think from a lyrical point of view, again, is very much, there's as I say, the enjoyment factor would seem to be king.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are a political band and everything, and I think people often think we're going to, we're these terribly serious and, having fun isn't on the agenda, but obviously for us, the most important thing for us is having fun and enjoying what we do. There's a lot of humour on the album, and
yes.
People sometimes think, oh, it's just, heavy politics and that. But yeah, because obviously we're in a band, I've chosen to kind of be in a pop group, so obviously having fun is one of the things you want to do, obviously.
And as you say, I mean, lyrically as well, I mean, even just if you take a song title, as I say, I mean, do you think that, that people appreciate your honesty?
Our honesty?
Yes.
In what sense?
Just from being able to sort of, I think just generally putting out a message in my mind, the way I read it is that you firstly should be able to sort of be able to laugh at yourself and actually call a spade in a lot of respects.
Yeah, I mean, I hope people will sort of pick up on that. I mean, I think sometimes, we have a funny relationship with the sort of music press over here who don't like our honesty or anything much about us, really.
Yeah, I think you're in the wrong country, eh?
Well, arguably, yeah. We do far more stuff abroad than we do in Britain.
Yes.
It's quite a fickle sort of music scene in Britain, really.
And it doesn't seem to be changing, does it?
Not really, no. It's very sort of fad-driven,
Yes.
And I don't know what it's like in South Africa, but, the singles charts over here it's just totally kind of boy bands and girl bands and, these utterly manufactured sort of...
Yes, the Steps and the S Club 7s and all the others.
All of that.
Yeah.
All over the place. It's really bizarre. Well, it's just, it's like everything else, really, isn't it? It's like the marketing men have moved in and kind of thought, oh, I get it, this is what you do, and they've just kind of started doing something to a formula.
Yes, but, I mean, having said that, would you say that, I mean, there's certainly some sort of I don't know if you'd call it a formula, but Chumbawamba certainly have a sound that I think the biggest part of the first world only really got to sort of get an earful about 3-4 years ago, as much as the band's been going for as many years as you have. Yes,
it's true, actually. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to call it a formula, because I think we do try and change how we do things.
Yes.
Album to album, but
you have a sound.
But I do think it would be disingenuous to sort of say we haven't got a sound, because we have.
Yes.
Because people sort of go, well, you listen to the first, half a minute of the CD, and it's Chumbawamba.
Yes.
And I mean, that's partly because it's there's things that we like. It's like, well, we like big choruses and we like sort of harmonies and and it's what we do well and all the rest of it. So yeah, we do kind of have a sound, but I guess it kind of is quite a difficult one to categorise.
Yes, or to
it's a bit eclectic and it's a bit of, it's like, you can tell it's a Chumbawamba record because it's got all sorts of different styles, reflecting our, our love of pop music of the past 50 years, I suppose.
Yes.
And the fact that there's 8 people in the band who all kind of have slightly different tastes, and a lot of those get reflected on the album.
Now, on the back of the success of the last album, which, as I say, I mean, it's been discussed, but it was a case of all of a sudden you became sort of media darlings. You were on MTV, you were everywhere. What was that like? I mean, were you sort of going,
weird.
what?
It was weird. I mean, it was great. I mean, I think in a way, it just sort of happened, really. I mean, people had kind of been saying Tubthumper were going to be a hit, and they were like, maybe, but I don't think any of us kind of realised what hit, what worldwide hit.
Yeah, it was going to be.
But it was fascinating, to be honest. It was a fascinating kind of, step inside the door of, of sort of the pop industry and rock and roll and all the rest of it. Utterly strange and very tiring at times. But,
sure.
But it was brilliant, I mean. But obviously, now we're this band who's had that hit,
yes.
So everything you do subsequently is related back to that. Because obviously, making this album was like, oh God, what do we do now? Because there's a certain you're
expectation
a bit sort of
almost.
If you do and damned if you don't. In a
yes,
way.
yeah.
You make kind of Tubthumper Mark II and reproduce that successful formula, but in a rather more calculating way, or do you just go, totally out there and do sort of
completely
atonal string quartet thing?
And what did you?
And obviously we kind of had to discuss all of that before we started recording.
Because I mean, this album isn't radically different in any way. I mean, sort of. It's you haven't gone out and bought out a punk album, or
No, that's probably the next one's going to be radically different.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's not radically different, but it is. We did actually ditch quite a lot of stuff when we sort of started writing, because it was all sounding a bit too much. Like Tubthumper Mark II. It's still very much a pop album in the same way.
Yes.
That Tubthumper was a pop album. I think the scope of it's broader, I think, in terms of what it's talking about, probably. Which again was a conscious decision, because it was conscious with Tubthumper that we wanted to kind of do stuff, but it was very much sort of Northern England and all the rest of it, whereas this is much more, is much broader.
Did you find yourself sort of in a place where the world all of a sudden was listening and was interested in what Chumbawamba were doing, to the point that you exploited, that you thought, well, okay, this is our one. This is our road in.
Yeah.
Let's not exploit it, but let's get that base as big as it could be.
On it.
Yes.
Yeah, we did in a way, because one of the things that happened with Tubthumper was it suddenly, it did present us with this massive opportunity. It was suddenly, we'd say something, and and instead of just saying it to kind of a small magazine or whatever, we were saying it on kind of primetime American TV.
Yes.
So it was an opportunity not to be missed, and because obviously if you kind of think, well, you've got things you want to say and you've got a message or whatever, then it was absolutely brilliant for us to kind of go on something like we'd find ourselves in these weird positions where we'd be on something like Rosie O'Donnell's show in the States, and you play your song and you do your 2-minute interview and you'd find yourself talking about anarchism for 2 minutes.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, what an opportunity, really. So, yeah, we did we did sort of make the most of it, definitely.
So the message is still very strong for you. It's
absolutely, yeah.
You haven't sold out and become cheap pop stars.
No, no, not at all. I mean, obviously there was a lot of kind of discussion and deliberation about this whole signing to a major record label thing initially, and then we did it, and then we had this big hit. But it's like, I think, if you sign to a major record label and start getting an amount of success, you can either think, oh right, well I better kind of be careful now and protect my position and make sure I stay here or whatever, or you can just think, well, this is great, and we're just going to carry on doing what we do, and if and just sort of see what the next stage brings. And I don't think any of us are kind of thinking, oh, we must definitely stay on EMI forever now.
Yes.
It's just like, this is where we happen to be at the moment. It's working out fine for now, and we'll just carry on. And we're not under any illusions that, like, if we're not selling enough albums or whatever, we wouldn't get dropped, or that we might decide to leave at some point. We'll just go on and do the next bit, you know. So we haven't kind of got into a position of, you know, relative success and suddenly, you know, got all conservative in order to make sure we can maintain it. We're not really career pop stars, really.
Yeah, yeah. But then it must be difficult to say, being in the position that you are, where you're being perceived, or not being perceived, but based on the success that you're enjoying, and even on, you know, with the new single, it's a case of you do get pushed into that market as being career pop stars, because in order to, you know, just based on the success that you've had. Yeah,
but I mean, I think, you know, we still do pretty much do what we want, you know. I mean, since we've been on EMI, we've done a few little projects outside of, you know, outside of the record company, and, you know, so we are still pretty much doing what we want to do.
And is that respected by EMI?
At the moment, it is, yeah. It's an amazement, really. You know, because one of the things we were thinking with the new album, we were like, oh God, we're going to get tons of record company pressure or whatever. And to be honest with EMI, you know, with the new album, they never heard a note of it or anything, or saw the artwork or anything until we'd finished it, and we just went, well, here it is. Here's the album, here's the cover, you know. And they didn't kind of interfere at all, which was, I mean, I wouldn't have got anywhere had they done so, but, you know, we were kind of quite pleasantly surprised that they didn't. It's not to say that, you know.
No, sure.
You know, I mean, that might not happen in the future, but, you know, so we do still have a lot of artistic control, which
is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you find a lot of people wanting to work with you on the back of Tubthumping? Sort of like, okay, well, you know, let me produce you, let me do this,
right.
or... Yeah, well, that's a bit of a shame.
I should say we were sort of turning down William Orbit or something.
Yes.
That we weren't. I mean, we've always produced our own stuff.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
You know, so for us it would have been weird, I think.
Yes.
I don't think anyone even considered it. But no, so, you know, so this album's still produced by us. You know, we can't quite let go of our sort of DIY past in a way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Of like, we want to do it all
yourselves.
Ourselves.
Yeah. Is it sort of annoying in some ways that, I mean, you've been, you know, you have so much material even prior to Tubthumping, and that you sort of going, well, you know, it's like bugger, because, you know, what we were doing, and maybe in the band's mind, some of the earlier stuff was the better stuff, and that was never given the kind of critical acclaim that you know, that album was, and probably this album will be.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think you just can't do anything about that, really.
No,
you know, that's just the way of it, and it's not like we were kind of, you know, living in utter obscurity before Tubthumping.
No.
Certainly in Europe, you know, we had a kind of
a good base, yes.
Sort of, solid following. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, because it was interesting, you know, when we were doing gigs on the back of Tubthumper, you know, you'd be kind of doing a gig in Germany or something, and there'd be loads of people there who knew all the old stuff, and, you know, knew about the kind of politics of the band, and, you know, then you'd be doing a gig in the States, and you could see that people just wanted to hear Tubthumper.
Yeah, well, you were a new band to them.
Yeah, I know, so that was, you know, that was really weird. You know, because we did put out a sort of retrospective called Uneasy Listening,
That's
which
right.
partly to kind of address that.
Yes.
You know,
which was great, actually.
To put us in a context, if you like.
So now the balance of the year, is it a case of, you know, transversing the world and going to as many places to sort of spread the message?
For this year, well, I think, hopefully not to quite the same degree as we did have something.
That'll probably kill you,
shattered by that, but you know, we're kind of, like, we're off to Japan next week, and we're doing loads of festivals and stuff around Europe. So, you know, so we're back and out in action again now. Good.
So we might, so to the point that we might get to see you down in South Africa at some point.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, we've not been, have we? It kept nearly coming up. You know, a couple of years ago, it was sort of appearing on the agenda and then slipping off.
So we've got to work at that. And do you think the new album will do well, sort of live? I mean, is it a set that you've done?
Well, we're actually sort of rehearsing at the moment. We're sort of working on all the live stuff, and I think it's gonna sound good. Yeah, I'm quite excited about it at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's always been interesting to me that your voice has always been sort of not the melodic, but sort of almost the the sensible part of.
Right, that's Lou. Actually, it's not me. I'm just a backing.
Oh right, okay. Sorry, apologies.
Lou's the voice.
Yes, Lou. Right.
About, yeah.
Yeah. You see, there's too many of you. That's the problem.
I know. You do loads of different things.
But no, I mean it's because it's. I've always, I mean I've been listening to the band for quite a few years, but there's sort of an odd sensibility about it, but also sort of a quirky madness as well, which but the marriage of all the personalities in the band make it obviously what it is.
Yeah.
But I think it opens the band to certainly being able to, I think, actually tackle anything.
We apart from perhaps speed metal and free jazz.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But everything else we'll have a crack at.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have got sort of, as you say, we've got all those kind of different types of voices and and styles that people like to play in.
Yes.
So there's not much we won't
try.
Yeah, we'll have a go at.
Well, you got 22 attempts on the new album, and as I say, is there a band favourite on the album that?
Oh, I don't know really. I mean, I always find with me that it varies. Kind of when I first hear it, there'll be a track that's my favourite, and then a couple of months down the line, there'll be something else that I really like. Because when we were, I think we've all got different favourites.
Sure.
When we were sort of, we were kind of talking about singles and all the rest of it,
right.
And we all had totally different ideas, so I think we've all got different, because in a way, I mean, I know the word concept album conjures up, bad images, but in a way it's like, I find it quite hard to sort of pull off
that
separate tracks, because it's like, it's a sort of, the way it all links together and that.
Yes,
It's quite a whole.
It's a package.
It is.
And a package it should be. No. Well, Jude, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Good luck with it. Not that you need it. I think it's going to be a good time. And I'll speak to my promoted friends down here. And who knows? Maybe we can get you to sun yourself in Cape Town soon.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yes, if nothing else. Yeah, we have good we have good wine. and we have the mountain. So there we go.
Right. Oh well, those two things sound appealing.
It doesn't take much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, well, thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure. Have a good day.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.